So today we are continuing through the Sermon on the Mount, continuing the series that we're looking at. And today we are in Matthew chapter 7 verses 13 and 14. So I'm just going to read that to you. It says, "You can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad and its gate is wide for the many who choose that way. But the gateway to life is very narrow and the road is difficult and only a few ever find it." Now this could be viewed as being quite a difficult, quite a sensitive subject for some people. And we don't really like talking about hell, which is mentioned in this passage, but the Bible has plenty to say about it. Now, don't worry, this isn't going to be some sort of Victorian sort of hellfire and brimstone preach and you're all doomed. It's not going to be that. This is really more about being counter-cultural. It's about going against the flow. About don't follow the world, go against the flow. Don't follow the crowds. Instead, follow a different path in life, a better path in life. Following a path that's less well trodden, the narrow path, not the wide path. One that can be harder to find. One that can sometimes be a bit challenging. One that sometimes can take a bit of discipline and a bit of courage. One that you might get ridiculed for or imprisoned for. But it's the path that leads to life, and life to the full, life everlasting. I need to tell you something that happened to me probably 35 years ago. So I was very, very young at the time, very, very young. And I went round to somebody's house in Littlehampton here. To my shame, I can't remember the name of the guy whose house it was. I can't remember his name at all. But I remember something that was on his wall. So I looked at this thing that was on his wall, and I studied the thing that was on his wall, and I thought the thing that was on his wall was fantastic. It was a painting. And for 35 years I've kept an image of that painting in my head. It made such an impact. And I studied this painting, and it was about the subject we're looking at today. This painting, well, it is actually a print of a painting. It wasn't original. It was quite a well-known painting. It was done in 1862 in Germany, this painting. And then it made its way over to Britain over a period of time. And it's called The Broad and Narrow Way. And this is it. It's very small. But that's the painting that I saw. And I found it again with the help of Mr. Google. So it's very helpful, that chap. So this shows, I know it's very small, and we'll look at it in a bit more detail, but on the left-hand side, there is a very, very broad and wide path, which you enter via a very wide gate. On the right-hand side here, there's a very narrow, winding little path, which is entered via a very, very narrow little gate, which is quite hard to find. So let's look at it in a bit more detail. So, on the left-hand side, there we are. There's the broad, wide gate leading to the easy path. And everyone's welcome, and everyone just pours in through the gates, and everyone's having a good time and a fun time, and everyone's jolly and happy. If you look very, 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 very closely at this, you'll find little biblical references dotted all over it, this painting. And so the person who drew this sort of took things from the Bible and interpreted them in their own way and came up with this picture. So there we are. There's the very broad, wide path that many people go down, you might just about be able to make out that on the left-hand side there that says gambling house. Ooh, that one says theatre. Ooh, shock. This I think that one says the tavern of worldliness. So it's all about pleasure and indulgence and having a good time. And everyone's happy, but then there's things going on up here where there's somebody shooting somebody else, and this is a little sort of this is the lottery going on here, and there's all these little details which you know it's a nice little picture to study and look at in a lot of detail, and then you follow the path up, and that's where it all ends. It doesn't end well. It's a funny thing there. It's a train. And they're very much against trains running on Sundays in 1862, and that's a bad thing. But then the other path. This is the other path. So this is, it says there, it's the way of salvation. It's a very, very little gate, which is quite easy to miss. And there it says life and salvation. And then you have the very narrow, difficult path leading up from there. And there's a few people going that way, but not the crowds that you get going the other way. And then it's a sort of winding, narrow, difficult path. And here's Sunday school. And there's bridges to navigate and difficult ravines to get across. And it is not an easy path. And then we move on. Sorry, not yet, we don't move on. Okay, so there's a broad, wide path, and there's a narrow, difficult path. And people who follow the wide, easy path have a great time, enjoying themselves, but they're just pleasures of the world, really. That's not the life that God intended us to live. And we should reject the ways of this life, all the worldly attractions. And those people following the wide, easy path might think we're crazy. But we have a better way. We follow Christ. Now, it can be difficult to find the narrow path through the narrow gate, which leads on the difficult life. People might say, but I just want to go and do this instead. Or it's just the wrong time in my life to find that little narrow gate. But I'll find it, but after I've done this. And people make all these excuses, but it can take a real effort to move us away from our comfortable life of following the crowds, and following the flow, and to make a decision on our own. So that's that painting that was drawn in 1862. I'm going to go even further back in time now to 1678. Okay, we're going to look at a book which was written by a chap who was in prison for 12 years for preaching the gospel in this country. He was sent to prison for 12 years for preaching the gospel in 1678. His name was John Bunyan, and the book he wrote was this book, The Pilgrim's Progress. And so we're going to look at the contents of that book, because it sort of follows similar themes. And we're actually going to have, none of you know this, we're going to have a drama production by the Trinity Church Improvised Theatre Production Company. That's all of you. So whether you like it or not, you're going to play a part in this play. So first cast member needs to be a guy and needs to be in their 20s, perhaps 30s, something like that. I might just push it to 40-ish, but it needs to be a guy that sort of age. Volunteer, please.
Oh, come on.
All right, Jake. There you are. That's who you are. That's your character. This guy's name is Christian. He was born with a different name. He was born with the name of Graceless, but then he changed it to Christian. You need to play along with this and sort of act out the part a little bit. He was tormented by spiritual anguish. And he carried a heavy burden. It is quite heavy.
It's quite heavy.
It is quite heavy, yes. He also held a book in his hand. It's all right, we can get rid of that, we know who you are. Yeah, we know who you are. There you are. Carried a book in his hand. Right. He lived in the city of destruction. Need some more volunteers? With his family. You can be Christian's family. So I need some young children and I need a wife. Any volunteers to be Jake's wife? Yeah, come on then. You can all be his family, but I need a wife. Come on, one of you hold that. You're Christian's family. I need a wife. Okay, he doesn't have a wife. All right. But here's Christian's family. So he lived in the city of destruction with his family. I need a spiritual guide. You're all going to be involved somewhere, so you might as well volunteer now.
Get a good advice while they go.
Volunteer guide. Yeah. Come on then. All right. You are a spiritual guide called Evangelist. And Evangelist visits Christian and urges him to leave the city of destruction. Christian begs his family to accompany him. Unsuccessfully. So, family, you can go sit down again. Thank you for your help. You two stay up here. Thank you. Christian sets off with Evangelist on his journey. You've got a long way to go, yes. 2 residents run after Christian. I need 2 residents. Come on then.
What's a resident?
Somebody who lives in the same city. You are called obstinate. Obstinate. I need another resident of the city. Oh, you could be, your name is Pliable. So we've got obstinate and pliable. So 2 residents run after Christian to bring him back. So one of them's called obstinate, one of them's called pliable. Obstinate argues with Christian to convince him he was making a big mistake. But then he gave up and went back to his house. Yeah, well done. On his way, no, you're still in this scene, yes. You can't give up that easily. On his way, Christian, together with Pliable, that's you two, fall into a bog called a bog. Fall into a bog called the Slough of Despond, which is a horrible boggy swamp where they got bogged down in all sorts of trouble. But a character comes along. I said a character comes along. Need another character? Oh, multi-talented. A character called Help comes along and saves Christian from the bog. Only Christian. You have to stay in the bog, Pliable. Yeah. But Pliable escapes the bog. You escape the bog, yeah, and you abandon Christian and you return home. Yes. So Pliable was happy to go along with it for a little while, but then gave up when the going got difficult. Thank you. Another character, different person, please. Jack. Okay, Jack. Come on, Jack. Okay, Christian meets worldly wise man. Well done. Who urges him to lead a practical, happy existence without religion. He tries to introduce his friend, another character. You're already a character. I need somebody. Okay, yes. Mr. Legality. So he introduces his friend, Mr. Legality, who tries to explain how his logic of how Christian's burden can be released just by leaving the path and by trusting in his own good deeds. Worldly wise man and Mr. Legality are just frauds. Con men. So, I'm afraid you have to go, guys. You've done your bit. Instead, Christian is directed by Evangelist to keep on the path.
Do I help him?
I think your job's done, thank you, Help.
I'm very helpful.
So, Christian is directed by Evangelist to keep on the path and to go to the wicket gate where he meets someone else. I need another character. There we are. He meets goodwill. So, goodwill tells Christian to stop by the home of someone called Interpreter, where Christian learns many lessons about faith. Thank you. That was a nice quick little roll.
Interpreter!
Hang on a minute. I don't need anybody just yet. Christian sets off walking alone along the wall of salvation, where he sees Jesus' tomb and cross. At this vision, his heavy burden falls to the ground. It's very heavy. there's some bricks in there, they're probably broken now. I need 3 female characters. No, 3 female characters. Okay, one more. Okay, very good. Okay, all right. Here you are. You're the 4 shining ones. He's greeted by 4 shining ones who are celestial creatures. One of whom hands him a passport. That's the passport. To enter into the celestial city. So these guys are angels. Okay, thank you, angels. You've done your bit. That's great. Nice quick little roll. As he travels on, I need 3 new people for this. 3 new people. New people. 3 new people. You don't want to be this character, believe me. Okay, one more person. Okay, well done. Good. So, Christian meets 3 new characters. One of them. Who's this? You want to be simple? So, we've got simple. We've got sloth. Are you a sloth? And we've got presumption. So simple, sloth and presumption. I'll explain later. Christian tries to help these 3 characters. He tries to help simple, sloth and presumption. But they ignore him, as they think they know best. That's it. You 3 are done. Easy, simple. Yep, job done. You totally ignore what Christian has to say. Christian approaches the hill of difficulty, where he meets 2 well-dressed characters. I need 2 well-dressed characters. Come on then, Martin.
Blake wants to volunteer.
Come on, Blake, come. Come, Blake, come to both of us.
So, who suits this best? So we've got Mr. Formality, and we've got Mr. Hypocrisy. There you are. So Christian meets formality and hypocrisy. Now, unfortunately, they prove not to be very good people, and they die in a dangerous bit of the path. Christian falls asleep. And he loses his passport. Now his passport is his ticket into the celestial city. And Christian, even though he's asleep, he tells himself off for losing it. He wakes up, he retraces his tracks, and eventually, after quite a bit of searching, he re-finds his passport. So Christian walks on, and he stops for the night, and he spends 3 days resting. Resting! So if it's okay, we'll leave here on Tuesday. 3 days resting. When he leaves, he is fully equipped with the armour of God. He then enters the Valley of Humiliation, where he has a dramatic battle with another character. All right. All right, thank you. Well, you don't know what the character is yet.
I do.
Do you?
Yeah, someone.
Okay. You can be the character, and you can be the character's sidekick. And you can be the character's accompaniment. Okay. So he meets a fierce, dragon-like character called Apollyon, who tries to kill him. Now, are you done? Christian is armed, and he strikes Apollyon with his two-edged sword, which made Apollyon flee. Flee! Run away! So Christian uses his armour to defeat the enemy, and he then proceeds through the terrifying, desert-like valley of the shadow of death towards the celestial city. Christian then meets you were here first. Oh, you can be the next one. You'll be perfect in the next one. There we are. So he meets a character called Faithful, who's a traveller from his hometown, and they walk on together. Faithful and Christian are joined by a third pilgrim called Talkative, who Christian disregards. Evangelist comes back on the scene again. If Evangelist comes back, yeah. So Evangelist arrives and warns Faithful and Christian about the wicked town of Vanity, which they will soon enter. Evangelist tells them that either Christian or Faithful will die in Vanity. So Christian and Faithful enter Vanity, and they visit its famous fair. It's a place full of delight and worldly pleasure, but they resist temptation, and they are mocked. I need about 7 or 8 people now. Come on then, all come up. Yeah, all come up. You're done, thank you. Come on then. Thank you. So can somebody hold that? You are all the townspeople. So Christian and Faithful resist temptation, and they are mocked by the townspeople. Eventually, the townspeople of Vanity imprison Christian and Faithful for mocking their way of life. Faithful defends himself at his trial, but is executed. This is only acting, please. All right. Faithful. Sorry. Yeah. So you townspeople have done your job. Thank you. Yeah. You townspeople have done your job. Thank you. Okay. Faithful is executed. Yes. Christian is sent to prison, but he later escapes and continues his journey. Another fellow pilgrim joins him. Multi-talented. This guy's name is Hopeful, and they become friends, Hopeful and Christian. On their journey, they're met by another pilgrim. They're met by a whole group of pilgrims, in fact. So we got hopeful and we got by-ends. By-ends uses religion as a means to get ahead in the world. But Christian rejects his company. Hopeful and Christian enter the plane of ease. We're a smooth talker. Who's a smooth talker?
Me.
You already got a palm. You want to be a smooth talker? All right. Your name is Demas. A smooth talker named Demas tries to tempt them with silver.
Sound like
The path gets very rough and very stony and very difficult. Very rough and stony and difficult. Yeah. So they decide to take the easy route across the meadow instead.
this is the easy one. Whoa.
There they get captured. We need a giant, and I'm going to choose the tallest person here, who's my little baby nephew over there.
I'm pretty short, actually.
There you are. You are Giant Despair.
It's going to make our lives into bright.
What do I do?
They come back up on the stage. So they get captured by Giant Despair, who is very threatening, and he punishes them in his castle. Thank you, Giant Despair. You're done. When Christian is imprisoned in the castle, he realises he has a key which will open all the doors and the gates of the castle. So they escape.
That's the whole time. I mean, seriously.
So moving on, Christian and Hopeful approach the delectable mountains near the Celestial City. Need a group of people for this one. Come on then, anybody can come up.
Come on,
Yeah. Alright, well done. You are all wise shepherds. So they meet the wise shepherds who warn them of the treacherous mountains called Error and Caution, where previous pilgrims have died. The shepherds point out travellers who wander among the tombs nearby, who have been blinded by the Giant Despair. They warn the travellers to beware of shortcuts, which may be paths to hell. Thank you, shepherds. Well done. Well, very, very wise shepherds. Well done. Thank you. You can go and sit down. So, the two pilgrims meet another character who needs to be somebody new. New. I want somebody else. I want somebody else.
Like, isn't new?
Shall I pick on somebody?
Yes.
Amy, come on then. What's your name? Oh yes. Yes. Two pilgrims meet ignorance. A lively teenager who believes that she'll be allowed into the Celestial City. There we are. That's where they're heading, the Celestial City. Who believes she'll be allowed into the Celestial City just through living a good life, rather than as a gift of God's grace. Christian rejects her, and ignorance decides to avoid their company. The travellers meet another character.
Actually, two of them.
All right, I've got another one just coming up in a minute. They meet Flatterer, who snares them in a net. And they also meet Atheist. They meet Atheist, who denies the celestial city even exists. Okay, thank you, you two. You can go sit down. So these two then cross the sleep-inducing enchanted grounds, and they try to stay awake by discussing Hopeful's sinful past and religious doctrine. Christian and Hopeful happily approach the city of Beulah, where the celestial city is located. The landscape teems with flowers and fruit, and the travellers are refreshed. Now, to reach the gate into the city, they must first cross a river without a bridge. Christian nearly drowns. But Hopeful reminds him of Christ's love, and Christian emerges safely from the water. Now, this is everybody else who hasn't had a part yet. The residents of the celestial city, that's all of you, joyously welcome the two pilgrims. Well done, thank you. That's didn't they do well? Okay, so that was written. That was very much an abbreviated version, and that was just the first part of the two-part story. So we might do the second part another time, but probably won't. So that story was written by John Bunyan hundreds of years ago, and it sort of tells us of the story of the Christian life to a degree, about the troubles and characters that you'll encounter and the trials, and uses very symbolic characters and places to represent spiritual things. So Christian, if you remember that far back, Christian started off by being weighed down by his sin. Christian then encounters various challenges and various trials, including the Slough of Despond, that was a big boggy pit, and Vanity Fair, which represents temptations and obstacles in the Christian life. But the story emphasises that salvation is achieved through faith in Jesus, not through good works, not through legalistic rituals. The Bible, this book that Christian was carrying, is a guide for the believer on his journey. Okay, so we go back to the verse we started with. Matthew, chapter 7. You can enter God's kingdom only through the narrow gate. The highway to hell is broad, and its gate is wide for the many who choose that way. But the gateway to life is very narrow, and the road is difficult, and only a few ever find it. Now, the painting we started off looking at was drawn 163 years ago, 1862. The story we just looked at was from 1678. That's 347 years ago. But it's just a painting. It's just a story. It's far better to go back to this, to go back to the root, to go back to the source. That's what it's really all about. It's really, as we said on the banner over there, it's all about Jesus. Following Jesus is the only way. So John 10 verse 7 says, he explained it to them, I tell you the truth, I am the gate for the sheep. Yes, I am the gate. Those who come in through me will be saved. It's not about doing good deeds. It's not about living good lives. It's not about giving money to charity or being kind to other people or just being a nice person. It's all about Jesus. So we should sort of leave the familiar, comfortable way of life and the way of the world and follow Jesus. It's not a crazy thing. It's an entirely logical thing. It's the way of following the Bible, of following Jesus, of walking the narrow, difficult path in life, of going through the narrow gate. Our identity is in Jesus. We choose to follow Jesus. We choose to leave the world behind. We choose to leave the sort of fleeting pleasures of sin, even though they can be fun. We choose to leave them behind. Following Jesus will have its challenging moments. It will be tricky. It won't always be easy. We will need perseverance. We won't always get it right. You might go down the wrong path sometimes. But it's kind of like climbing a mountain. You don't get to the top of the mountain without hard work and struggling. We might feel like giving up sometimes. You might get knocked off course sometimes. You might be tempted to leave that route and follow an easier path sometimes. But keep on persevering. Jesus has provided a way for us. And through his grace, through his strength, through his power, through his wisdom, through his guidance, we can follow that path. It's a path that's less well trodden. It's a path that often has to be found out and not following the crowds. It's not about trying harder. It's about following Jesus, following his way because of his grace and his mercy and his forgiveness. He loves us and he longs to be part of our life. What we need to do is believe in him, listen to him, trust him, obey him, and follow him. I'll say that again. We need to believe in him, listen to him, trust him, obey him, and follow him. I'll say that again. We need to believe in him, listen to him, trust him, obey him, and follow him. So, if you find yourself walking the wrong way in life, if you know you're not following Jesus, if you know that your life is not all about Jesus, then you have a choice. Do you choose to carry on going down the path you're going down, or do you choose to find Jesus and to follow Jesus and to live life the Jesus way? That's really the question, the challenge for today. What sort of a life are you living? The life following the crowds, or the life following Jesus?